All right, let's get one thing straight. Forget everything you've seen in the movies. Today, we're diving into the real prehistoric world, using the fossil record as our guide. And trust me, this isn't a nature documentary. This is a survival guide for a world that was actively and creatively trying to kill you around every single corner.
So the giant asteroid hits, the big dinosaurs are gone. You'd think things would calm down, right? A period of peace and quiet, while mammals finally get their chance to shine? Well, if you thought that, you'd be wrong. So wrong. You see, nature absolutely hates a vacuum. Once the biggest predators were wiped out, it didn't just take a break. It just started experimenting. It started cooking up all new kinds of monsters. And honestly, some of them were even stranger and more terrifying than the dinosaurs they replaced.
Okay, so here's how our survival guide is going to break down. First, we'll look at the world after the dinosaurs and meet the new monsters. Then, we're going to jump back in time to the main event, the Cretaceous, and face the herbivore horror, death from above, and finally take a swim in the liquid hellscape. Let's do this.
Right. First up, the era right after the non-avian dinosaurs checked out. This wasn't some gentle new beginning for our fuzzy mammal ancestors. Oh no. It was a full-on arms race, and some of the first creatures to leap for the top of the food chain were, well, they were birds.
And here is Exhibit A. Meet the terror birds. Yeah, forget pigeons. For nearly 60 million years, these things were the undisputed top predators of an entire continent. They were huge, they were fast, and that giant beak wasn't for cracking seeds, it was a sledgehammer for crushing skulls.
And then you had these guys, the Ankylosaurus, better known as hell pigs. And they earned that name. These things were a walking apocalypse. They were huge, aggressive, with jaws that could bite through bone, but the scariest part? They were smart. They would eat literally anything, plants, other animals, and, as the fossils clearly show, each other. You couldn't hide from something that smart and that hungry.
Okay, let's leave that weird world behind and jump into our time machine. We're going to the main event, the time period everyone pictures when they think of dinosaurs. But we're going to see how the Cretaceous perfected the art of the death trap. And it starts not with the animals, but with the planet itself.
So here's the first thing you have to understand. Before you even see a single dinosaur, the world itself is trying to kill you. The weather was a nightmare, swinging from scorching heat to sudden, freezing cold. The very air was thick and hard to breathe. Just existing for a few hours would have been a monumental achievement.
Now, once you survived the weather, you got to meet the locals. And what's fascinating is that even at the very top of the food chain, you had different, equally horrifying ways to die. T-Rex was a bone crusher, just pure, brutal force. Giganosaurus, though, was a slicer. It used those blade-like teeth to carve off huge chunks of meat and just let you bleed out. Two very different philosophies, same terrifying result.
But it wasn't always about one giant monster. Sometimes you had to deal with this, a tactical unit. Fossil evidence tells us that creatures like Albertosaurus hunted in family groups, so you weren't just running from one predator. No, you were running into a coordinated ambush, with the big, powerful adults up front and the faster kids cutting off your escape from the sides. There was nowhere to go.
Okay, now this is where everything you think you know from the movies just gets completely thrown out the window. We're always focused on the carnivores, right? But the fossil record is pretty clear that some of the most dangerous, most violent animals out there were the ones we've always been told were peaceful.
You think the plant eaters were just gentle giants peacefully munching on leaves? Think again. The fossils tell a much more violent story. These animals were walking tanks, they were heavily armed, and they did not like to be disturbed.
Take the Ankylosaurus. This thing was basically a 6-ton panic attack on legs. If you surprised it, it wasn't going to think. It was just going to start swinging that massive, bone-shattering tail club in every direction. It probably wouldn't even know it had turned you into a fine paste. You were just collateral damage. 3 feet. That's how long the horns were on a Triceratops's face. Just let that sink in. 3 feet of solid, sharpened bone. And let me tell you, those were not for show. They were for punching holes through anything that got too close.
And that quote really says it all, doesn't it? I mean, paleontologists have found T-Rex skulls with healed-over puncture wounds that are a perfect match for Triceratops horns. They fought back against the biggest predators on the planet, and a lot of the time they won. For them, violence wasn't the last resort. It was option A.
And that brings us to the last herbivore threat, death by accident.
It didn't even matter if they were peaceful. When you have a 100-ton animal walking around, the laws of physics are not on your side. One wrong step could flatten you. A casual tail swing to swat a fly would be like getting hit by a freight train. Just by existing, they were unbelievably dangerous.
So you can't outrun the carnivores, and you definitely can't get too close to the herbivores. So you look up. Surely the sky is a safe place, right? Wrong. The sky in the Cretaceous wasn't a refuge. It was just another hunting ground.
And this thing is pure nightmare fuel. Quetzalcoatlus was the size of a giraffe, but it could fly, and it didn't just soar around up high. No, it would stalk on the ground, walking around, and using that massive, spear-like beak to stab and eat anything smaller than it. It was a silent, walking killer that could launch itself into the sky in an instant. You'd never see it coming.
Okay, the land is a death trap. The sky is full of flying nightmares, so there's only one place left to go: the water. You run to the coast to escape. Bad idea. The seas of the Cretaceous were, and there's really no other way to put this, a liquid hellscape.
I mean, just look at this lineup. The ocean wasn't ruled by one big bad. It was an entire ecosystem of specialized killers. You had the torpedoes, like Ankylosaurus, that would just ram their prey. You had ambush predators with car-crushing jaws. You had relentless sharks. And guarding every coastline, giant crocodiles with a bite force that made T-Rex look weak. No matter how you got in the water, something was perfectly designed to end you.
So let's just be absolutely clear about this. In the Cretaceous, there was no safe zone. Not on land, not in the air, and certainly not in the water. Every single part of the planet was a perfectly crafted hunting ground filled with creatures that would make any modern predator run and hide.
When you look at the fossil record, when you see this world of such complete, layered, inescapable danger, it really makes you wonder how life itself managed to hang on. It wasn't about dodging one T-Rex. It was about surviving the planet, the herbivores, the skies, and the seas, all at the same time. A true nightmare of survival.